Hello, I'm Jake Boudrot, Civic Journalist at Tello Community Television. This week, on The Record, the company behind 2 solar gardens in Richmond County talks about their projects. Local community organizations are approved for provincial funding to provide services for people with disabilities. Students in the Strait Regional Centre for Education receive Lieutenant Governor Education Medals. And I attended the monthly public meeting of Port Hawkesbury Town Council on May 6th. After the meeting, Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton and Deputy Mayor Iaian Langley fielded questions from the media. But first, the new Member of Parliament for Cape Breton-Canso-Antigonish reacts to the provincial election.
Joining me today is the Liberal MP-elect for the new riding of Cape Breton-Canso-Antigonish. Welcome back, Jaime Battiste.
It's good to be back.
So in the federal election on April 28th, you received 24,634 votes to 20,714 votes for second place Conservative candidate Alan McMaster, good for a majority of 3,920 votes. And this is according to unofficial results from Elections Canada that have yet to be certified, but those are all the polls reporting. What is your reaction to this result?
Well, first off, I want to make sure that I thank my team for really putting a great campaign forward. Stephanie Howitt, she was my campaign manager. Dion Denny was there with me almost every single day. We had a great team of folks putting up signs and doing everything we needed to do. I want to congratulate Alan and Joanna on campaigns that they put forward. It's not an easy thing to put your name forward, but I was surprisingly I was very surprised with the result. I thought it'd be a lot closer, but I knew we put in the work, and I knew that we did a lot of things well. And starting from scratch from 75% of the riding, I think it's one of those things where people get to know you. They get a sense of I think that one of the things that I like to portray is being genuine, but also being a guy that you can have a conversation with, a coffee or a beer, or just play music with. I mean, I went to a lot of songwriters circles, or guitar circles, or singing circles, whatever they called, all across my riding, and just performed. It doesn't hurt being an East Coast Music Award winner, that you can show up and just play with any band, because I've been playing with bands for 25 years. Talk about my cousin Lee Crimo with folks, and just talk about music. And sometimes, you just have these conversations with folks, and they see you as a genuine person. They look at your resume and say, well, he's pretty qualified. And I think that that's what resonated well in this campaign, was just people getting to know who I was, but also them seeing me at all of these various functions, and knowing that I was comfortable in crowds and playing music and having conversations with folks.
What do you attribute the result? I guess, what were the major factors that played during this election, and as far as you see things?
Well, I think the whole the discussion was about Donald Trump, and how do we move forward with Donald Trump. And the conversations that we had were, at the end of this election, we need to put a serious leader forward who's going to have push back against Trump. It's someone who's going to someone who has the qualifications that Mark Carney had with his PhD in economics, someone who's guided the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England through crises. And you know what? I have to say, yesterday, when I saw the Carney press conference and how it went with Trump and everything, I have to say that I think Canadians made the right choice. I think the Liberals made the right choice. He demonstrated the best qualities of what we have in Canadians. He was polite, he was respectful, but strong, and amusingly defiant when Trump, does his things and talks about these things that aren't always factual. Carney just kind of smirked it off and said, you could tell that he wasn't agreeing with what the president was saying, but he didn't do it in a way that was disrespectful, because it was, he's in the White House. And so I think that, that was the thing that was on people's mind, because they saw what Trump was doing in the United States. And I think that Canadians rejected that, that very right-wing populism kind of leadership that Pierre Poilievre was demonstrating. And I think that's what happened in Pierre Poilievre's riding, is that, the people who knew him best rejected him and said, we've gotten to know you. And, they turned out in record numbers to vote him out. And so that was an amazing thing. But I think that it was the contrast. To come back to your initial question, it was the contrast in leadership styles: serious, qualified, and straightforward and pragmatic in Carney, and someone in Pierre Poilievre that was just duplicating or repeating or emulating all of the things Trump has been successful doing. And I think Canadians rejected that.
With the NDP coming in with, I believe it was 1,940 votes, just below 2,000, good for about 4% of the overall vote. Does it look like that vote collapsed and essentially went to the Liberals? In your opinion, is that the way you see things?
I think so. And I talked to a lot of people on the doors, not only NDP, but also Conservatives, that were scared of Pierre Poilievre and scared of what Pierre Poilievre, Trump, North America could look like. And in a lot of areas, I think in Nova Scotia, the NDP vote went to the Liberals. In some places in like Southern Ontario, especially the union places that are very reliant on the automobile industry, it seems that NDP vote went to the Conservatives in a very shocking way. And so that it's based on where you are in the country, that where that vote went. And I think that we were all kind of shocked at the Ontario results, because people who were talking about polls, people who were talking about being experts in this, figured we were in double digits in Ontario, and that didn't end up happening.
Now, you mentioned this earlier about the turnout in the First Nations communities here within this riding, and it appears that you received some pretty solid support in those First Nations communities.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised how much support we got so early. In the advanced polls in Eskasoni, the previous record was about 150 votes, and we got almost up to 800 votes in the advanced polls just in Eskasoni alone on that Easter weekend. And we just built on it. I think that I got 1,333 votes from Eskasoni, and the Mi'kmaq community combined, I think it was over 2,000 votes. And so we got the turnout. And I think that was, part of the strategy and part of why the Liberals felt that I would be the strongest candidate to take on Allan McMaster. He was the second most powerful Conservative in the province for the past 4 years. And, it was a heavyweight fight. And then, but, we just fought a little bit harder, I suppose.
Now, once the votes were counted by Elections Canada, your party now stands, it was 168, but now it's 169 seats, just 3 seats shy of a majority. Are you disappointed that the new Liberal government is a minority and not a majority?
I don't think disappointed is the right word. I feel grateful and blessed to be still being a member of Parliament on the government side. Whether I've known nothing but minorities in my life. I have nothing to be able to contrast that to and say, really would have nice to have a majority, because I don't know what a majority feels like. I've never had that, and I've never witnessed that. Everything that I've known in terms of politics has all been about collaboration. I was sending as much, to Liberal MPs, congratulating them for their wins. I sent congratulatory notes to the NDP members that I've served with on committee and the Conservatives that I've sat with on committee, and said, really grateful to be continuing to work with you. Hope to see you back in Ottawa. And so I believe in collaboration. I believe that we can, in Canada, work across party lines for the betterment of our country. Sure, would I have loved to be able to see what a majority feels like? But for me, the overall, I can't say I was disappointed. I would say that I was hopeful of a majority, but not having any kind of resemblance of what that is. I kind of just, you get elected as a minority, and if we can make it work for 2 to 3 years, maybe we find 3 like-minded people who see Carney the value in having stable leadership over the next 4 years, and maybe we'll find a way to chart that path forward. Because I don't think anyone wants an election in the midst of what we're dealing with Trump and with the tariffs and the uncertainty in the world. I think that I think majority of members of Parliament want us to see how we get through that, and I think there'd be Conservatives, NDP, and Green that are looking to say how can we create the most amount of stability in this country.
Now, the Conservatives took 144 seats, according to unofficial results from Elections Canada. Did that result surprise you, their strength? I know some people, and you mentioned this earlier, it seemed in southwestern Ontario, the NDP vote kind of went to the Conservatives, and that kind of seemed to be the difference between Liberals getting a majority and a minority. But did the strength of the Conservatives and the vote total that they pulled out and the number of seats surprise you at all?
No, I don't think it surprised me. I mean, 3 months ago, we were down 20 points. Anything can happen in politics, and if you believe the polls, and sometimes I believe the polls, a lot of the times I don't pay attention to them. They picked me to lose in 3 elections, and they picked this election to be a toss-up, and I won by 4,000. So I don't put a lot of weight in what the pollsters are saying, but I do get a sense of the vibe and the feeling. And 3 months ago, the feeling was from Canadians across the country that the Liberals were in it for a heavy fall, and we ended up getting a stronger minority government. So you just put in the work and hope things are going to work out for you in your area. Do your part as a part of a team, and hope that the other members of the team put forward. But the Conservatives, as they speak to a certain demographic, and that demographic was frustrated with how things are going. And I wasn't surprised at all that they picked up seats, because of where they were 3 months ago. While everyone believed that the Liberals were going to win a week before the election, I think many of my members of Parliament across the country who I've been talking with said it's going to be a lot closer than people think, and that's how it felt. And true enough, came to fruition. It was a lot closer than everyone was projecting it would be.
And now you mentioned that, and here in Nova Scotia, Liberal incumbent Sean Fraser, behind half or most of the night in Central Nova, seemed to kind of pull it out at the end, because I was checking those results, and he was behind by quite a bit at one point, and kind of surged ahead. 2 Conservative incumbent MPs were knocked off, and Ronnie LeBlanc narrowly lost to Conservative incumbent Chris Dotremont, Acadianapolis. I believe it was under 500 votes the majority ended up. What was your take on the results in the province?
I think that we had a strong team in Nova Scotia, and we had a strong message. And throughout the campaign, we were collaborating. We were talking about how do we help each other out and how do we move forward together. And I think that knocking on the doors in Nova Scotia with the fisheries community, with the farming, the forestry, they were concerned about where we were heading in terms of this with the tariffs and the future. And I think that they knew stability was going to be better, and they figured that when the Liberals looked like they were going to win, that those people who were kind of probably in the middle saying they hadn't decided yet, they said, well, it's better to be in a riding that's represented by the government than in opposition. And I think that Carney needed a strong mandate. He didn't quite get the majority, but I think this is as strong of a minority that we've ever seen. So I think that we had a good campaign in Nova Scotia. I was really happy that Sean Fraser pulled it off. Coming back in, like me and him came back into this in the last minute. And he said he was out, and I was really pondering my future for a solid month after the loss of one of my best friends and my riding association president and senior staffer. I didn't know how I would win this. I didn't know how I could win a campaign or even campaign without someone who had been there from the start for me. And it took a lot of conversations with Liberals, other MPs, ministers who really said, we need you in Ottawa. We need your voice. We need a strong Indigenous and First Nations voice, and we really hope that you will continue to run for us. And so I did. And but it was that, and I told my campaign team this. They really carried me for the first 2 weeks of this campaign, because my head wasn't into it. I was still grieving. I was still trying to just to that kind of life without your best friend and the person who was your wingman through all of this. And so that's something that I really, it took a while to get me into that campaign mode, but my team really got me in, pulled me into it.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's something that he probably would have wanted to see, and probably wouldn't have wanted you to withdraw from politics. And I'm sure in some capacity he was looking down on you and looking over things on election night. I would imagine that's something you probably would agree with.
Well, I do, and there were some things that some things that happened that made me feel like he was with me, and sometimes I got strength when I didn't know I had it in me, but also there are certain signs, and there are people who believe in spirituality and faith, and I'm one of those people who choose faith and trust, but there's one of the things that was sent to me by my sister is that they say an angel number is 333. It's a sign, and I got 1,333 votes from Eskasoni, and so it kind of has that. It meant something to me to see that number and to actually research it and say that's a sign. And so I do believe he was with me. I do believe that he wouldn't have wanted me to stop on the account of losing him, but it was a difficult campaign. But I think perseverance was important, and it's something that I've been able to. One of my qualities is just keep going even when you know that you're tired, you're beat, and you may not be into it fully, but you just keep going.
So in the neighboring riding of Sydney Glace Bay, your Liberal colleague Mike Callaway, the former MP for Cape Breton-Canso, won with 25,766 votes over the Conservative candidate who received 17,978 votes for a majority of 7,788 votes, according to unofficial results from Elections Canada. Have you spoken to the area's former MP, and what have you guys been talking about?
No, I haven't gotten a chance. I've actually only spoke. I think I've only spoken to Sean Fraser out of the Nova Scotia crew in terms of conversations. I took a little time off and went to vacation with my son. Um, I've been in basically campaign mode from beginning of 2025, from January with my bid for the leadership. I took maybe a month away from campaigning and just jumped back into it with with this because I was also helping Mark Carney after I stepped out of the race to endorse him. I was still making calls on his behalf and doing what I could to help him. And so, but no, I haven't been able to chat with Mike, and I'm looking forward to meeting up with the Nova Scotia MPs soon, but I haven't really gotten a chance to chat with them as much. And one of the things I have been doing is we lost, 12 Liberal MPs. I'd say 8 of them I was pretty close with, people that I'd go out to dinner with, people who were friends, people who are that I wanted to call them and see how they were doing, check in on them, just to find out how the campaign went in their eyes, and I'll get to see the people who won for the next 2 to 4 years. So really, I've been focusing on the ones who didn't win in the previous election, and in terms of the calls that I've been making.
Given the fact that you guys do have neighboring ridings, I would imagine you guys are going to be dealing with each other. I'm sure there's a lot of shared issues, and there's going to be some commonality there, and pretty much the same as it is with Sean Fraser and neighboring Central Nova. So I would imagine you guys are going to be working together in some capacity over this term.
Oh yeah, Nova Scotia Caucus meets and Atlantic Caucus will meet, and so we will have plenty of opportunity for those of us who succeeded in getting elected to have conversations over the next 2 to 4 years. Like I said, but I've been really focusing on the ones that we lost, and the friends that won't be returning, to give them a call, because it must be a difficult thing to lose an election. I've never felt that yet. We all, as politicians, have an expiry date, but you just want to be there for those ones who are going through tough times.
So now that the election is over, Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced that Parliament will be resuming on May 26th. So what are you doing right now? What are you working on, and what's coming up in the coming days and weeks?
Well, I'll tell you what I did today for 4 hours was taking signs and putting them and storing them for the next election. And so, if you can imagine taking over 600 signs from 4x4s to 2x2s to 4x8s into two separate locations for 4 hours, it was a lot of work, and it's a lot of it is getting, finishing off the campaign and picking up the signs and finding out where the new locations for office is going to be, and finding out the orientation of how much additional dollars we'll get for the size of this riding comparison of the old riding that I had, and trying to figure out, getting a liberal riding association together. So a lot of it is finishing off the campaign, doing all the things that we needed to do. Some of it is going to be trying to remove my previous MP signs and things like that I put in places in Sydney that I'm no longer the MP there, that we're going to have to. So it's a lot of the transition between being an MP in Sydney, Victoria, to being the MP for Cape Breton-Canso-Antigonish will be a lot of the focus and the transition. I'd say for the next month, we're going to be doing a lot around that.
And then, with that transition period, I imagine there'll be time to be tackling some of the major issues that we're facing right now. The tariffs come to mind on seafood, possibly other goods, something that would impact Hawkesbury paper and Point Tupper, and things of that nature. So I imagine there'll be plenty of time to be tackling those issues. What are some of the issues you're looking at that initially are going to be things you're going to have to deal with right out of the gate?
I think it's support for Canadians through this. Yesterday was a really good meeting with Trump. It went much better than I think that we would have hoped for and expected. I still expect the Trump administration to do some very erratic things and pull us into trade wars potentially with China, and we've got a lot of instability in the world, and I think a lot of what we need to do in this transition point is do exactly what Mark Carney has said he was going to do, is creating a better economy, remove the boundaries between provincial governments, make a stronger economy by working together in this country. And it's dealing with Alberta is showing to be a little bit difficult right now, but other provinces seem to be on the same page. Two of the premiers that are there that are NDP are people that I've known for many years. I went to law school, and a friend with the Premier Dave Eby in British Columbia, and Wab Canoe, who I've known for more than 20 years as a friend. And so, we're all looking at how do we put aside some of the differences in between provinces, and put aside and figure out how to remove the obstacles that we put in places between provinces and create the strongest internal economy. We don't know what's the threats that are coming, but we know that we need to strengthen our own economy. But there's also investments that we need to make, and we've said that we're going to do this. And small craft harbors for the fisheries. We're going to be investing in more recreation infrastructure. We're going to be trying to do what we can to continue to build our economy and build that growth in Canada. And I think that's major things that we're going to be focusing on over the next little while. And I'm looking forward to being a part of the conversation, of course, of what we do around a budget and putting a budget submission forward and ensuring that the budget reflects what's needed not only for the Atlantic but for all of Canada. And of course, being the chair of the Indigenous Liberal Caucus, I will be putting forward recommendations on what we need for Indigenous communities across this country as well.
Well, please keep us posted and in the loop on some of these announcements and some of these developments in the coming weeks and months. And I'd like to congratulate you on your victory and running a great campaign. And once again, thanking you for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down, talk with me and our viewers, and answer my questions. Thank you very much.
Jake, thanks for making time for me, and look forward to talking with you over the next 2 to 4 years, however long this lasts.
With me today is the Senior Project Coordinator for Solar Bank Corporation. Welcome, Mila Simon.
Thanks, Jake. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
there are two proposed community solar program projects earmarked for Western Richmond County. One off Highway 104 in Whiteside, the other off Highway 4 near Kempt Road. First off, how does the community solar program work? What is the eligibility and criteria in this program?
Yeah, so the program works in a way that the province has actually put out this initiative, the Community Solar Program, and it's intended for a number of reasons. Number one, to help Nova Scotia reach its net zero goals. So they plan to be net zero by 2035, and this is one of the multiple programs that are out. Specifically, this one is focusing on community solar. So what this means is that the community members are eligible to subscribe through a virtual agreement with us, the project owner, and through this, they would receive a 2 cent per kilowatt hour off on their electricity bill. And the eligibility is that you have to be a Nova Scotia Power customer, and you can't be part of any other program where you're already using renewable energy, such as net metering. So it's eligible for any Nova Scotia Power customer to participate.
Maybe you can talk about Solar Bank Corp. How are they involved in these projects here in Richmond County, and what is their role essentially?
Yeah, certainly. So SolarBank is one of the co-developers on this site, along with Trimac Engineering. They are our local partner. So SolarBank has been developing projects like this for over 10 years now. We actually started first in Ontario during the feed-in tariff program, and then once that was put on pause, we actually moved on to New York State, which has a really good community solar program, which is actually very similar to this one. So we've been in New York State now for almost 10 years. And we're very excited that the community solar program has finally come to Canada. Nova Scotia is actually the first province to be having this program. So as the project developer, we take care of the entire life cycle of the project from origination, the very beginning stages, which is where we're at now, all the way up to commercial operation and then operations and maintenance. So along with our partners, Trimac Engineering, we will be here throughout the entire cycle.
Now, these are community solar gardens, are they not, that are being proposed for these two sites in Richmond County? So what exactly are community solar gardens? How do they work? And maybe you can get into what are the benefits in the communities?
Sure. Yeah. So a community solar garden works in a way that so a private company or it could be a public company or a non-for-profit agency. They are the project owner, and what we do is we identify a site that is feasible for this type of project. The investors, so AI Renewable, this is the project owner. It's a limited partnership flow-through fund. They raise the money in order to fund this project, and they work with project developers like SolarBank and Trimac Engineering, who develop the site. So currently, we're preparing a proposal to submit to the Nova Scotia Community Solar Program with the province. This is then evaluated. And there's a number of requirements that go into this proposal, which we can get into. So this is then evaluated, and then we may or may not be selected for a contract. So if we are selected for a contract, then we would begin the detailed development and engineering, and this is where we would open up the ability for subscribers to enter into this virtual agreement with us. And there's no cost or commitment or any additional equipment needed for the subscriber because it is virtual. So Nova Scotia Power, who's administering this, they would then send the bill like normal, and then they would see that they're a subscriber to this solar farm and simply apply the credit to their bill. So it's still just one bill from Nova Scotia Power. And they identify that credit, and then it typically ends up being around 10 to 15% off your electricity bill.
And these would be from the Nova Scotia Power customers that are in that immediate area around where the solar gardens are located? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so it's interesting actually. So our subscription plan is always to prioritize the local first. So because the neighborhood is hosting the solar project, they would be eligible to subscribe and ideally fill up all this capacity. We also reach out to First Nations and marginalized communities to offer them subscription as well. And then if there's still available capacity, then we would expand to the neighboring areas. And then finally, if there's still available capacity to subscribe, we would open it up to the general public. So That's our subscription plan, but technically you do not need to be located close to the site because it is a virtual agreement. You're not physically connecting to it.
So the proponents behind these projects are expecting to hold public consultation sessions. And what will these entail? Are these public meetings or information sessions? And have the sites been selected yet for these meetings?
Yeah, so we will be hosting public meetings. We will be hosting 2 public meetings, one in person and one online. So the in-person meeting will be in around 2 weeks from now. So Wednesday, May 21st at 6 p.m. at the Friends United Centre. And then the online meeting will be on Microsoft Teams a week following, same time. And these public meetings are intended to, number one, engage the community, inform them about the community solar program, inform them about the projects that were selected, inform them about the companies involved, the developers, what it is we're doing, and then currently the status of our proposal. So what we're working on as part of this proposal to the province. And then of course, the development timelines, what would happen after if we are selected for a contract, excuse me. And of course, there's the main purpose of this is for engagement. So we always leave ample time for question and answers, feedbacks, and of course, share our contact information if there's any follow-up questions. Throughout any time of the project cycle, they're free to reach out to us and let us know. So we were looking at 2 sites in Richmond County, so one off Highway Road and one off Whiteside Road. So because these sites are actually, we just recently got back the preliminary assessment from Nova Scotia Power. These 2 sites will be competing for capacity, meaning that right now the Whiteside Road project is on pause, and we will be proceeding with the Highway 4 site. So that's in the public meeting. We will show a preliminary site plan, explain the location, and explain how this would look like and how it would work.
So what will be done with this feedback and input that you'll be getting from the public? How will it be incorporated into the project in your plans?
Yeah, so we typically always take notes of all feedback, and typically there's questions about the site and how it works and the program. So we always answer these to the best of our ability, and if there's any feedback such as when it comes to setbacks, we always incorporate this as much as we can in our designs. So there's still time. We're currently assembling, of course, the package, and the community engagement is an important part of it. So because we're in the very early stages, we always try to incorporate as much as we can into these plans from the community.
Also, as part of this public consultation phase, the supporters of the project are planning to make a presentation to Richmond Municipal Council, as I understand it. Is that still the plan? And what will be discussed at that time? Is it basically much along the lines of what you will be discussing at the public consultation sessions?
Yes, exactly. So essentially, it would be the same overview that we're providing for the public consultation. We would be coming on Thursday, on May 22nd, to the Richmond County Council meeting.
So what have you been hearing from the community so far? Have you received any feedback, preliminary, unofficial feedback or input?
So we have actually just sent out some mailers, information packages with contact information earlier this week to the neighboring residents around the site. So far I have not yet received any feedback, but of course I anticipate there will be some questions once they receive these packages, and then of course in the public meetings.
So you mentioned that the Kempt Road project is proceeding, but not the one on Whiteside Road. Is there a reason for that, or?
Yeah, exactly. So they are connecting to the same feeder. So these are distribution connected projects, and the capacity available, it would only be enough to support one of those projects. So currently it's on pause, and we're proceeding with the Highway 4 site.
But the plans are to, at some point in time, to resume the Whiteside project, or to continue with it, or?
If the capacity in the future becomes available, if there's any changes in that down the road, then I think we can certainly take a look. But as of right now, assuming the Highway 4 project, we plan to submit that. And if it's awarded a contract and there's no changes in the capacity, then we would only be proceeding with the one.
So once this public consultation phase is complete, what are the next steps in the for the project?
Yeah, so further in the project, we have some, as I mentioned, we received our preliminary assessments back from Nova Scotia Power. So they will then go into more detailed studies. We also have our financial plans, construction plans, First Nations engagement, marginalized community engagement, and subscription warm list that these are all parts, these are all items that go into our proposal. So we'll be working on this as we prepare the package and submit it to the province.
So are you guys still on the timeline? My understanding was you guys were looking at spring, summer to start these projects. Is that still the timeline, or is that still the schedule?
So we do hope to start them around that time. So at the time that we submit our application, it's then reviewed. So this could take up to a few months from Nova Scotia Power. And then once we are awarded a contract, this is when we would begin the detailed studies and the permitting and the development cycle. So ideally, we would begin spring of next year, yes, assuming that this timeline follows through.
I really appreciate you making time for me and answering my questions, speaking with our viewers about this. And this is something we'll be planning on keeping an eye on, because it is something different in this area. I know there are some wind projects proposed, but this is, from what I can gather, one of the few solar projects in this area. So it's definitely of interest to us, especially as it pertains to the local economy and the local area. So it's great, and thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. And some other, I would say, unique factors to this type of program is that, like I mentioned, it's distribution connected. So not only is there the financial benefit to subscribing to the project where you receive that credit on your bill, but there's also the benefit of increased grid resiliency. So because it's a distribution connected project, that means that it will be enhancing the local grid. The power will be feeding directly to those distribution lines and helping the grid resiliency there. And then, of course, there's also the economic benefit. We would need to have local crews, labor, and also operations and maintenance crew that would be nearby the site. So there's also that benefit as well. So I think that it's a great initiative, and we're so happy that it's finally made its way to Canada. And Nova Scotia, like I mentioned, is the first province to be doing the community solar program this way. So yeah, we're very excited, and we're looking forward to the public consultation meetings to meet the community members and hear as much feedback as we can.
According to the Department of Opportunities and Social Development, 16 projects in Nova Scotia aimed at strengthening supports for people with disabilities will receive more than $618,000 in provincial funding through the Service Evolution Fund, which helps advance the Nova Scotia Human Rights Remedy. Local funding recipients and projects include Maui Dock in Inverness County, which was approved for $19,100 to conduct community engagement and strategic planning with a focus on meeting the unique needs of Mi'kmaq community members with disabilities. The Rock Society of Inverness County and the Cape Breton Regional Municipality was greenlit for $15,955 to do planning to evolve existing services and create new ones in line with the needs of members. The fund launched in October 2024 to support disability support program service providers to transition from facility-based to community-based service delivery, the province said, noting that the first 8 projects under the fund were announced in January. New projects are funded quarterly, and the province said applications are due on the last business day of February, May, August, and November. The province said it has committed $1 million per year for the next 3 years to the fund, adding that the disability support program has 131 service providers. Scott Armstrong, Minister of Opportunities and Social Development, said service providers are reimagining how they deliver services, and in many cases, creating entirely new ways of supporting people in their communities. He said his government is seeing real momentum across the sector, especially coming out of the recent Rebuilding Hope conference. These new projects show how committed service providers are to making this transformational change happen, the minister added. Lieutenant Governor's education medals were presented to grade 11 students under the Strait Regional Centre for Education, who have demonstrated qualities of leadership and service in the school and community, and commendable performance in the courses in which they are enrolled. At a ceremony held at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre on April 6th, Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia, Mike Savage, made the presentation. The recipients include Blake Landry and Raya Landry of Richmond Academy. Blake Landry is described as having excellent leadership qualities, academic dedication, and a commitment to both school and community involvement, the SRCE said. He always strives for the best when learning, which has contributed to his academic success. In addition to being an outstanding student, Landry is a natural leader. His leadership style is inclusive, encouraging, and inspires his peers. This was important when he worked with his physical education leadership class to organize games and participate in a unified sport basketball tournament. Landry also makes a positive impact on his school and his community by participating in extracurricular activities. According to the SRCE, Raya Landry is a well-rounded French immersion student. She strives for academic excellence, which has earned her high distinction in grades 9 and 10, all while also supporting her teammates on multiple sports teams, including volleyball and softball teams, which earned her the Ron O'Flaherty Scholar Athlete Award in 2022. Landry values the learning that takes place with her volunteer opportunities and is passionate about taking on leadership roles within her community. She has devoted many hours as a coach of youth volleyball, a member of the Regional Student Advisory Committee, and has been actively engaged in the school's leadership committee, the Nova Scotia International Student Ambassador Program, and the IWK Fundraising Committee. Also receiving medals were Miley Hanley and Ali McIntyre of Sarek. Hanley is a very skilled French immersion student who has also found time to serve as a lead Nova Scotia International Student Program Ambassador and is an instrumental member of the Share and Care Committee, a school committee which supports local families in need. She is also an active member of the Winter Carnival Committee and the Techsploration Group, which has contributed to the SRCE Regional Student Advisory Committee. Hanley's extracurricular contributions at the community level include serving as a leader of Sparks and Embers. She is a long-standing member of the Girl Guides of Canada and a volunteer with Port Hawkesbury Recreation. Hanley has also generously given her time coaching youth through CanSkate Canada for many years. McIntyre consistently embodies a model student while balancing academic achievement and school community involvement at Sarek. In addition to her strong academic record, she is the co-editor of the Sarek Yearbook and a valuable member of many committees and teams, including softball, Operation Share and Care, Winter Carnival, Sarek Media, and the Options and Opportunities program. In the community, McIntyre volunteers with the town of Port Hawkesbury and at the local nursing home, as well as being a member of the Girl Guides of Canada, and is a leader for Sparks and Embers. McIntyre has dedicated herself to the Community Kitchen Project and the Tech Art Group as a youth facilitator. The Mayor of Port Hawkesbury said she supports attempts to continue marketing Cape Breton to tourists. Brenda Chisholm-Beaton said the increase in the tourism marketing levy from 2% to 3% will help promote the island as a destination. Destination Cape Breton CEO Terry Smith told Council that 88% of their budget comes from the levy, with each dollar spent marketing the island resulting in $30 in direct visitor spending. Now, all registered accommodations, including Airbnb and Vrbo, now have to collect the levy, he noted. Smith said 2024 was a record year for tourism to the island, with Destination Cape Breton website traffic and engagement, as well as revenue from room nights, all up from previous years. He said the numbers for 2025 are even better so far. In addition to lengthening the season by encouraging fall and winter tourism, Smith said Destination Cape Breton is also trying to increase the length of time visitors stay from an average of 4 days to 7 days. In response to a question from Town Councillor Blaine McQuarrie about promoting snowmobiling during the winter months, Smith said Destination Cape Breton has met with snowmobile clubs around the island to get their input on what's missing from their marketing efforts, and a steering committee has been formed to put together an action plan. He said they also have talked with the municipality of the County of Richmond about promoting their ATV trails. After Macquarie asked whether Destination Cape Breton is advocating for better cellular service, Smith said that is another item on their to-do list, especially as it pertains to poor service in the Cape Breton Highlands. Smith then added that he has not heard any updates about the Gateway project welcoming visitors at the Port Hastings Rotary when asked by Macquarie. In response to a question from Deputy Mayor Iaian Langley about the lack of accommodations, Smith said that is another task they are working on. After Langley asked about making the town a boating destination, Smith said that they talked to a consultant and want to meet with the Strait Area Yacht Club. Do you foresee that the increase in the marketing levy from 2 to 3% will have any impact or much of an impact here in the town?
I think it's going to have a positive impact for our island because it's going to mean there will be more dollars with the Destination Cape Breton Association so that we can use to market our island and continue, I hope, to hold the status of the #1 island in North America. So I think that increasing the levy puts us at a more even keel with the rest of the province, and it does give us some more money to do what we do best and to welcome more people to the island of Cape Breton.
Terry Smith talking tonight about increased numbers and projected increased numbers as well, even from the U.S., even with everything that's going on between the U.S. and Canada right now. What are your thoughts on how Port Hawkesbury has fared over the last couple of tourism seasons and the outlook for this coming summer?
Well, you know what? We're really at the gateway of Cape Breton Island, and the town of Port Hawkesbury is a service center all year round. So we don't have a tourism shoulder. We are well positioned to be an anchor location for people to stay and explore the island of Cape Breton-Unama'ki. And of course, part of continuing to build a destination for the town of Port Hawkesbury will require some more work and dedication on certain files, I think, that will help move the needle to get us closer to being a destination that will see increases in tourism numbers. Some of the files that Terry Smith talked about was seasonal service to the LNJ McCacken Airport. I think that is a great opportunity, certainly more than golfing, just to, we have amazing golfing, world-class golf courses, but we also have amazing world-class experiences all throughout the island. So having the McCurdy Airport and the LNJ Airport welcoming people is phenomenal. I really love that piece of work is getting done. And I guess just to talk about that welcoming people by air, we also have an opportunity to welcome people by sea and welcome people by car. So we did have a quick discussion on the Gateway project. So that's something that I think it's important as the Rotary project, continues to evolve. Now that we have new councils and new leadership around the table, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of dust that idea off, because at the end of the day, every municipality and every First Nation community in Cape Breton-Unama'ki, we all own a piece of that gateway, and we want to make sure that the welcome that people receive when they come across the causeway, really, we want to be able to see ourselves in that welcome. So part of achieving that goal is making sure that we reopen the line of communications between all 5 First Nation communities and all 5 municipalities, and some critical partners like Destination Cape Breton, the Cape Breton Partnership, the Chambers of Commerce, and others. So I think it's definitely, how can we improve our welcome by car or camper or bicycle, however they're crossing the Canso Causeway, and talked a little bit about how can we work on improving our waterfront. So like how can we improve our welcome and increase our destination as a marine gateway as well. So these are all amazing files to continue to work on, and that I think is going to grow our tourism potential as a town of Port Hawkesbury.
Is the lack of accommodations in Port Hawkesbury limiting benefits from tourism?
Oh, 100%. So I guess I should have mentioned that. That's also an important file when it comes to building a destination for tourism for the town of Port Hawkesbury. And especially if you want our destination to be able to enable our town to be an anchor location for people to stay and explore the island. So our town has actively been working on attracting a hotel development to the town of Port Hawkesbury. So, this is something that we would like to see very close to the Civic Centre. So we are progressing this file, and hopefully in the future that will be another important tool to have in our tool belt to making Port Hawkesbury a tourism destination.
Port Hawkesbury Town Council will continue to meet with supporters of the Leaside Supportive Housing Initiative. Susan Noble, board chair of the Leaside Society, told Town Council they are looking at purchasing 23 acres of town land on Tamarack Drive to build a campus. With the campus, she said they can place all their services in one area, such as a transition house and emergency shelter, a resource center with centralized offices, second stage housing with supports, a community green space, and lots for future partners. Noble said that part of town is ideally suited to their needs for buildings, parking, a playground, it's close to Tamarack Education Center, and is a family-friendly setting. She said they can have their facilities close together in an area that also allows for privacy. Noble said the society has a transition facility that supports families that need stability, guidance, and hope, while addressing the root causes of domestic and intimate partner violence. She said the group has now evolved into a hub of a holistic family support, including counseling and other services. Noble said they are facing challenges providing their services at the current facility, which is frequently full, noting they can't always provide a safe place for those in need. She said their 22-member team is also stretched thin because of their lack of office space. This is made worse by the housing crisis, with costs increasing, and a lack of affordable rental options in the region, she noted. Noble said this would be a sound investment for the town, and there is money available from the federal and provincial governments for nonprofits to address problems like homelessness and domestic violence. To meet their goals, Noble said the group wants to work with town staff, hold community meetings, and get consultants to undertake a feasibility study and complete designs of the campus. She said they also plan to conduct fundraising and solicit private donations. Noble said Leaside is very interested in the Tamarack Drive property and is willing to pay a fair price. After Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton said the town will investigate this request and wants to talk more with the society to understand their needs and flesh out their vision. CAO Terry Doyle called the project very exciting, but added there are other properties in the town, and he suggested sitting down with the society to review those options.
Very comprehensive pitch made by Leaside Transition House and the Leaside Society this evening. And I just wanted to get your gut reaction to what they're looking for. They're looking for land as opposed to money. But what are your thoughts about what they were pitching this evening in terms of a bigger operation that takes in more than they currently do?
Well, I think that they certainly came prepared with a lot of statistics and facts with regard to intimate partner violence, and obviously the gap that currently exists in Nova Scotia. They indicated that COVID really did kind of open a lot of eyes with regard to that. The need to increase services, the need to increase housing, all across the spectrum from from the perspective of emergency shelter to second stage housing, and definitely emphasized the affordability factor as well, particularly when families are in a position where they have to kind of start fresh. I really thought that their vision of having a Leaside campus, if you will, that really does bridge all of those needs together in one area. I think it's a brilliant vision. Certainly excited for next steps to discuss, a little like flesh out a little bit more of how their vision kind of like translates into a plan, and to work with the town to understand what does that footprint look like. They did indicate a piece of property that they are extremely interested in. So maybe we explore all that the town has to offer. At the end of the day, it's understanding, having those critical conversations, and not just with the town. Of course, they did indicate that they wanted to do some extensive community consultations as well and looking for partnerships, which I think is, the right way to go forward. And of course, I think that part of those conversations not only lies with the community, but also lies with clients to understand what their needs are. So once, we kind of flesh out what that wish list looks like, and try to kind of put a practical lens on that and determine exactly what those physical needs are, then we want to move forward and, continue to see how we can work together.
Now, just wanted to pick up on the comment you'd made about the idea that they're looking at a piece of land, but there are other pieces of land within the town, as the CAO pointed out tonight. What does that conversation look like? What are the next steps? And basically, how long are you folks planning to have that conversation before making a decision?
Well, I will tell you that I guess I would premise my comments with the fact that the town of Port Hawkesbury, not only this council, but past councils, we've been very motivated on the housing file. We know that we need housing all across the spectrum, and we identified very early on that obviously we don't have second stage housing available in the town of Port Hawkesbury, and it's very much needed. So certainly, having conversations with potential partners like New Dawn, for example, and like Leaside, which, obviously a budding potential for a partnership this evening, but also with developers. So the town, we certainly have the capacity. We have the information with regard to available land. We've been doing our homework on the housing files, so it's certainly not a bridge too far to, start those critical conversations with Leaside Society, and to determine, again, what are the practical components around their vision, and, how do we kind of like map that out so we can understand exactly what that footprint or looks like, and, where's the best place for it? Because at the end of the day, it sounds very much like part of the vision is removing barriers and, and creating an inclusive space, a safe space for women and their families. So at the end of the day, we have a lot of homework to do, but certainly happy to start that adventure out with Leaside.
Is it going to be feasible to be able to sell all 23 acres, or is it possible that a smaller size lot might be more possible or more doable?
Well, we are certainly going to, I think part of our homework is understanding the needs, and figuring out what does their vision look like in terms of a practical perspective. So perhaps, they did indicate that there were 3 phases to their plan. So we can determine, is there a phased approach to acquiring property as well? So, I think those are part of the conversations that we'll need to have going forward. But it's great that they've indicated a location that they've identified that meets their needs. So it's definitely a great starting point. So we can, again, map out all of the available properties, and figure out what is the best fit for their project.
You mentioned that location, and that, of course, is on Tamarack Drive, not far from Tamarack Education Centre. And those that presented on behalf of Leaside tonight really pitching that could provide some connectivity between the children and the staff at the school, but also with the youth and family programs that are offered at Leaside. How big a factor do you think that'll play in the town's conversations about the pieces of land available for Leaside for this project?
Well, I would argue that, for the last decade or more, the town has been very committed to creating a functional and connected town for all areas of Port Hawkesbury, whether the connection is for active transportation, and for all ages, all levels of mobility. I certainly understand why they selected that preliminary piece of property. Um, but Port Hawkesbury, although we have a big impact, we are fairly small in terms of that connectivity factor. So I think Tamarack is definitely a good location when it comes to school-aged children. But other factors could be, being close to all the amenities, being close to here at the Civic Center, recreation, the pool, the library, the rink. So there's lots of great locations around, including the property that they indicated. And Port Hawkesbury really is a truly connected town, and we are working on connectivity and accessibility and inclusion and diversity and equity every single day. So I think that their project definitely resonated with our council, and really excited to move forward to next steps.
Port Hawkesbury Town Councillors approved a recommendation from its Committee of the Whole to revise its vending policy to reduce fees by 40%. Before the vote, Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton declared a conflict, and Deputy Mayor Iaian Langley temporarily took over as chair of the public meeting.
Why was it necessary to reduce the vending fees by 40% here in the town of Port Hawkesbury?
We did a comparative analysis on vending fees across the province, and we were high. And this council is very eager to attract business. This is one way we can do it, by lowering the vendor's fee. And let's see if more licenses get issued or not.
Had you or council heard from some potential vendors here and some potential food trucks that they found the fees too high? Were there concerns about the level of the fees at this point?
We did an internal comparative analysis on our vending fees versus other municipalities. Ours were a little higher. Let's see if we can attract some more vendors and make it better for those that are existing.
Council approved a motion from the Deputy Mayor to send correspondence to former Cape Breton-Canso MP Mike Kellaway, asking him to hand over any active files to new Cape Breton-Canso-Antigonish MP Jaime Battiste now that the federal election is over. Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton said she and Town Councillor Paula Hart will be attending the upcoming Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in Ottawa, which will provide an opportunity to speak with the Cape Breton MPs to have the files transferred.
And as far as the active files that you want to send to MP-elect Jaime Battiste, what do those include? What are some of those files we're talking about?
So we are working with, we have been working with Mike Kellaway's office on things like moving the green energy file forwards. We do share a water utility with Richmond County, the Landry Lake water utility. Certainly as that emerging sector around green hydrogen moves forward, I think that water utility becomes extremely important. Including expanding the watershed to make sure that we have ample water for not only for existing users and for residents of the town in Port Hastings, but also for future developers as well in the Point Tupper area. So that's just one example of some of those files. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention housing, because we've already kind of talked a lot about housing. Housing is definitely one of the most important items that I hear from residents every single day. Whether it's students looking for housing, whether it's seniors looking for turnkey options, Whether it's families that they would love to live in Port Hawkesbury to maybe be closer to their work, or, certainly there's a reason why the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce has made housing a huge mandate for their organization and are working directly to create a housing not-for-profit. So housing is another very important topic that we'll be looking forward to working with Jaime Battiste. And just for continuity purposes, all of the work that we've done, that Mike Kellaway's office and staff can move forward to his office and staff.
Goes without saying that Port Hawkesbury is now part of the largest federal riding by geographic size that it's ever been a part of. How do you respond to that as mayor, irregardless of the person that now represents that riding?
It is a big riding, and but I think despite its size, there are so many shared files and shared opportunities that we have for all of the municipalities and the First Nation communities within this constituency. So Cape Breton-Canso is it's certainly a very large expanse, but at the end of the day, we do look forward, all of our communities working with and we congratulate our Member of Parliament, Jaime Battiste, on his election win, and we look forward to rolling up our sleeves and working with him.
Now, the active files that you were talking about, what are some of those files that you'd like to talk about with the new MP-elect for Cape Breton-Canso-Antigonish, Jaime Battiste?
Well, I think it's important anytime you have a transition of responsibilities to do a handover to ensure continuity and that files move forward. We have several files. I'd like to share them with him in person before I share them with everyone else, in fairness to the incoming MP. But, we want to make sure that the good work that the outgoing MP, who's now representing another riding, is carried on by the new incoming MP. And I must say, he did reach out to us during the campaign and is very eager to learn what was important to this municipality, and we're happy to share that with him and any of the other candidates if they so wish to ask.
Port Hawkesbury is one of several municipalities covered by this new riding, no matter who was going to cover it. Concern about Port Hawkesbury's interests potentially being lost in the shuffle, or just hopeful that the transition will be able to take care of this?
I hope the transition will take care of this. But, a lot of the files that are important to us are important to our neighbors. And when something good happens in the industrial park, Point Tupper in Richmond County, it's good for Port Hawkesbury. It's good for Mulgrave, I believe, as well.
Town Council approved a motion to make an application to the Municipal Innovation Program to partner with the municipality of the County of Inverness to make repairs and upgrades to the water and wastewater plant that serves customers in Port Hawkesbury and Port Hastings, using water from Landry Lake in Richmond County. Estimated at a total cost of $328,000, CAO Terry Doyle said the provincial government can pay 75% and the municipalities can fund the remaining 25%, with 20% coming from Inverness County, and the town of Port Hawkesbury responsible for the remaining 80% of project costs.
Now, as far as the Municipal Innovation Program submission you're making with Inverness County, you guys have been working with them for years with regard to the Port Hastings water and sewer plant. So this kind of makes sense, and it's a good fit for this program and for the town.
Oh, absolutely. We're always really excited to work with Inverness County and collaborate with them. Just even one of the examples that Aaron McCacken spoke to tonight with regard to information technology. So we work with all of our surrounding municipalities on IT. We work with all of our surrounding municipalities on things like Eastern District planning. And, this is yet another example on how we can work together as two municipalities with shared interest, and of course, how we improve our services and how we respond better, requires commitment to innovation. So I think this is a project that makes sense to both municipalities for sure.
Now, what information did the Chief Financial Officer provide about the Port Hastings water and sewer project, or plant, I guess as you call it, that you guys got earlier?
Yeah, the information she provided is what was required for the application, and it was, fairly forensic. I'd call. We had to spend about a good hour on that application, able to ask as many questions as we could, and I thought it was important for the public to know, which is why I made comment that when we make expenditures, and we made a motion that came quick, and it was passed quickly, that's a sign of efficiency. We did the homework beforehand, but that may not be apparent to those that were watching when that motion was presented this evening. So I want to make that point clear. It's in the municipality of the town of Port Hawkesbury, which is the sewage treatment plant. And the water is in the municipality of Richmond, and it's treated in our plant. And we provide supply water to Port Hastings. So it's a partnership on this particular application between Inverness County and for Port Hastings and Port Hawkesbury.
Do you think the history in that regard helped to make some sense of going forward with an application like this to the municipal innovation program, that the town would partner with the county?
Well, the requirements were that it was a joint municipal partnership. So we're just fitting the criteria of the applications that the province is putting in and taking advantage of it for our citizens.
Thank you for watching. Please tune in again to find out what we will be talking about on The Record.